What's going on, hustlers across the nation? This is the Gig Accountant. My name is Naz, and I'm a licensed CPA in the state of New Jersey. Today's subject, I want to talk about the CPA exam and how hard it is, how much of a challenge it was for me personally. So I earned my CPA license back at the end of 2014. So I began studying for it end of 2013. So it took me a little bit under 1 year to complete the CPA exam. And I found the CPA exam to be exceptionally difficult, exceptionally challenging. In my conversations and research with others, it's one of the most difficult, challenging professional licensing exams out there that you can ever take. From what I've heard, it's more challenging than the bar exam and even the medical boards. So you're going to be hard pressed to find an exam that is more challenging than the CPA exam. There are some that I've heard allegedly that are more difficult, but they are few and far between. So what really makes the CPA exam so exceptionally challenging is the breadth of material, the breadth of content that you need to be prepared for and be able to pour back into exam. So you need to go over a large range of material in a short period of time, and then put it back into that exam, regurgitate that into the exam, and pass it. So that's what really makes it so challenging. It's not the fact that it's the material, the content is so incredibly difficult in of itself. I would say that if you got past accounting at university, your accounting courses, you should be able to pass this exam. Some of the content that is covered in the university should be more challenging than the content on the CPA exam. The reason being is that the CPA exam deals with the material at a more surface level depth. Your accounting courses may go into more depth in any individual concept. And the reason for this is because there's a large range of material that you need to know. So the expectation is very surface level for the CPA exam. So in some ways, it's not that difficult in terms of just like each individual concept. It's not that it's several levels deep. It's one level deep content that you need to know and be able to apply it at in the CPA exam. So that's what really makes it very challenging. So for me, it took me approximately, as I said, a little bit under a year to, so far as financial accounting and reporting, tech is business environment and concepts, auditing is auditing, and tax is tax. So most folks feel that bar is the most challenging exam, section of the exam. And that's because of the large amount of material that you need to absorb and regurgitate into the exam. Me personally, I didn't find bar to be the most challenging. It was challenging, yes, and it was the most time consuming. But I feel like my background, my educational background, prepared me very well for this exam. So I had done accounting for my undergrad, and then for my MBA, I took some accounting courses too, which kind of was my review for the material. And I felt that this prepared me very well for the CPA exam SPAR section. So for me personally, I found tax and auditing to be exceptionally challenging sections of the CPA exam. And that's just because I think that's just material that is not kind of gone into as in depth in your accounting courses. So for me, auditing and tax were more challenging than FAR, but I will admit that FAR does have more content that you need to go over. So for me, the easiest section of the exam was BEC, Business Environment and Concepts. And for me, it was just easier because it was just more concepts that I've seen in other classes, and it's just more of an intuitive thing for myself. So for BEC, I received my highest grade. I received an 86. And for each one of my other course sections of the exam, I think it was 76 that I received. as the grades bear out, for me, Beck was the easiest. And it's funny because actually for Beck, when we got to writing samples, the essays, there's 3 essays. I completed the first essay and then I was running out of time. So what I did is I just copied the first essay and copied and pasted. The second essay, I just kind of edited the middle section very slightly. And then the third essay, I barely even edit it because I ran out of time. But I still passed with an 86. So there you go. I don't think that, my understanding is I don't think that Beck is actually graded by human graders unless something goes wrong, there's something that's flagged. It's actually the computer, the program, it will like look for keywords, for grammar errors, spelling errors, things of that nature. So that's kind of why, even though I just copied and pasted it, it seems like I still got a good amount of points for that. So, let me talk about my study method for a little bit. So, a lot of folks take review courses, they go in class, they listen to the instructor, or they listen to video of the material, they read the textbook from cover to cover. For me, that felt like a waste of time. I mean, I've done all of that things already in my accounting courses that I already took in college. So I felt like there was no need for me to do it. And I actually did try to change it up for one section of the exam and did do that. But I'll get that back in a moment. So with the majority of my sections of the exam, my primary source of studying was the multiple choice questions. So what I tried to do was, first of all, I purchased the study banks. So at the time, it was the Wiley test banks. I also purchased other test banks. One that I used extensively, other than Wiley test banks, towards the tail end of my finishing up the CPA sections, was Ninja CPA Review, and that offered there was some overlap with the Wiley test banks, but they also included some questions that were not in the Wiley test bank. And I don't recall exactly, but I recall it being more extensive than the Wiley test bank. So I felt like the Wiley test bank was a great source of material for studying, but then Ninja CPA Review offered more questions, more test bank questions, and really complemented the Wiley test bank. I think Wiley has been purchased by other business right now, so they're not their own review course, and I think it's more expensive now, from what I understand. But you guys have to look that up. I haven't looked into it for a long time. So the test bank questions, the multiple choice questions, was my most important source for studying and prepping for the CPA exam. So for each question, I tried to complete each question 3 times, or until I was regularly scoring at least 90% on that section of the test bank questions. So whatever was higher. So I did each question at least 3 times, or scoring at least 90% of them on a regular basis before moving on to the next section. And that's how I prepared for the CPA exam, and that's how I passed for the CPA exam. But then again, most of my sections of the CPA exam, I passed with a 76, so I just edged it out. I passed all my sections except for one section on the first take. The one section that I failed the first time was when I deviated from this plan of just focusing on the multiple choice questions, and this was for the tax section. For the tax section, I decided to say, hey, let me try to see if I read the Wiley textbook and like go through the multiple choice questions as the textbook prompts me to do it, and see how that works. So mind you, the Wiley textbooks is like this thick, so it's like a long read. So I went through the Wiley textbook. I scheduled my exam for like, I think it was like 2 months in advance, and so I made it through the textbook, but by the time I got through the textbook, the exam was in a few days, so I didn't have a lot of time to really focus and plug out those or knock out those multiple choice questions like I did in the past. So when I got to the exam, I wasn't as prepared as I felt like I could have been, and I failed that section with a 64. So I rescheduled a retake of that exam. I forget when I scheduled it for. I might have had scheduled it for the first time at the end of the test period, and then I would schedule at the very beginning of the next test period, or it might have been within even the same test period. I forget exactly, but for the retake, I just did what I did in the past, where I was focused purely on the test bank questions and taking the test bank questions and using that as my source for studying, and I passed with a 76 again. So that was my strategy that I used in order to pass the CPA exam, and it worked for me, doing each question 3 times until I got 90% at least on that section. That's what worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you. Maybe something else will work for you. So yeah, that's all I have to say about the CPA exam. I highly recommend it. It's a benchmark of quality. It's a litmus test for your accounting knowledge, and does add that credibility to potential employers regarding how strong is your accounting base of knowledge. It gives you a floor on your accounting knowledge, and it has helped me out in some instances where I've had colleagues who would start saying, "Oh, your accounting knowledge is weak," but then they would say, "Okay, well, I can't say that because you do have a CPA and I don't have a CPA." So, no, it really adds that credibility, and putting it after your name does look good. So, that's all I got to say about that, guys. So, you guys be safe out there, work hard, work smart, and stay hustling. Peace, guys. One more thing, guys. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell for future videos. Have a good one, guys.